Welcome to Birds of Prey Sports, where we weekly cover Ravens and Orioles news. We're your hosts, TJ and Jarrett. And in this video, we're going to be going over the game recap for week one, our loss versus the Buffalo Bills. Unfortunately, we came up just short after blowing a 15-point lead with about literally under 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Just a characteristic, meltdown by the Ravens. We've seen it happen a lot over really a lot of John Harbaugh's tenure. And it's something that we still haven't, figured out how to stop yet. And, something that, can be make or break if we end up even making the Super Bowl this year. Something that, we really have to fix if we, want to take that next step. So in this video, we'll be going over that. Also be looking at the stats from the game. And, you can look forward to our pregame for the Bills in the next video. So
Browns.
without further ado, Browns. So without further ado, I want to, start with you. What was your thoughts about this game, man?
Oof. Do you want my 100% filtered opinion, or do you want filtered opinion? No, but in all seriousness though, it was just so weird to see the differences in our reactions, from just like a 3 minute period between when we were on top of the world to when we just lost. Like, I couldn't understand what went wrong. And it's frustrating because this feels like the same thing that we're talking about over the last few seasons, that this team has the potential to be great, but will always hold themselves back and prevent themselves from becoming great. They're good. They may even be a touch of great. But honestly, maybe it's less of great and more elite. Like maybe we're a great team, but we're holding ourselves back from being either consistently great or elite. And that's what's frustrating about this team and the past few teams is those losses. It's not like this just happened for the first time. They pretty much said this is like the 17th time this has happened under Harbaugh. And the one thing that worried me was how poor, first of all, it all kind of it was almost like a teaser trailer of what was to come with the dumb play calling before the end of the first half. From the stupid Zay screen, to on like second and long, to the poor offensive line play that caused Justice Hill to fumble the ball. All these little things that seed into our losses. We and all what was the score? It was 20 to 10 until they got the field goal. In my opinion, you need to be up 27 to 10. So even if they get that field goal, you're still up by two scores. You need to get the touchdown there. You are in the red zone. You need to score a touchdown before half to put them away because the Ravens, if I remember correctly, they scored coming out of half. They made it 27 to 13 anyways. Or no, they made it 30, whatever the score was. I forgot. Maybe they didn't score. I forgot exactly what happened right after half, but we could have been up 34 to 10 or 34 to 13 going into the Bills' first drive in the second half. You see the differences here? We leave a lot to be desired, especially in the clutch situations. And we had like 10 guys in coverage before half and still let him get the freaking ball into field goal range. Like what are we doing, guys? And this is a consistent issue. And then when you go up 40-25, look, if I'm the coach of the team, which I'm obviously not, but if I'm John Harbaugh, this is an environment that is ruckus or whatever you want to call it. It's whatever. I don't know if I use that word right, but it's a ruckus environment. Raucous. I think it's raucous. Raucous environment. You're playing the former MVP. You're playing a team that beat you in the playoffs just a year ago, or not even a year ago, like 6, 7 months ago. 6, 7 months ago. But you see them fans leaving the stadium. You're at 40-25, and then you proceed to stop them on the next drive. If I'm Harbaugh, I'm saying pedal to the metal rest of the way. Run the clock out, but also continue to put your foot on the gas pedal. And it's crazy that we're having this conversation again for like the 1,000th straight season when we keep saying pedal to the metal, pedal to the metal. You need to continue to put your foot on the gas, especially versus the Bills. They could easily just get one thing. How many times have we said you need to get one thing that can change the tide of the game? They got that. They got the turnover they needed, to give put the momentum back in the game. They got all of that because we decided to start playing conservative. And Marlon Humphrey was on the nose when he was talking about it, saying that everyone's trying to make the game-winning play instead of just making stops. Make stop like the fact that he even had the audacity to say that there was a lack of maturity under this team, what defensively to be able to make a stop right there. We have a 17-year head coach. Why are we lacking maturity on defense? And on top of everything, why is our special team so fucking terrible? That's another thing. They started their first drive at like the 40 or 50-yard line. The coverage team consistently on the special teams is terrible. Over and over again, they're just gaining to the 35, to the 40, to the 50-yard line. They should not be starting drives on their territory. If there's one thing Harbaugh should be great at, it's the special teams. Never in his tenure should the special teams be dog shit the way that it is right now. And then on top of everything, you got Trenton Simpson diving on the ball for absolutely no reason and touch it. They could have started that drive from the one. If they would have started from the drive from that one, I can guarantee you our defense would have stopped them. But no, they got the touchback and started the drive at like the 30 or whatever they started it at. The difference is, I mean, it's these little things that just add up throughout the game. Honestly, and then Harbaugh had the audacity to ask Kyle Hamilton, did you graduate from Notre Dame after that one? Now, I will admit that that play was dumb. That was a dumb play from Hamilton. I don't know why he pitched it back to Kyle Van Noy. But your smartest and your best offensive player out there, you have the audacity to put him on blast the day after you lose? No, honestly, the dumbest thing that you've probably seen is something you should be looking in the mirror at every day. That is the dumbest thing you should see every day. So this is how it's gonna go the rest of the season. I mean, this happens every year. Where early in the season we had these stupid losses, and then we'll figure it out. We may have another stupid loss in there. We'll figure it out. We'll probably be 10-2 by November. I bet you we'll be 10-2 by November. We'll have another stupid loss. We may go 10-3. We might win out. We might win 14 games. We might go 14-3. But they always arise right back up, right when postseason time comes up. And I'm gonna be real. I'm tired of Harbaugh. First of all, I'm tired of the way he's running this show. He does a lot of good things, but he does equally amount of bad things as he does good sometimes. And this game is a perfect example of it. And I was explaining to you after we lost the game that we haven't won a ring, and he's one of the main culprits why. How unprepared we look going into playoff games over and over and over again. There's no reason why we should be down 21-10 in Buffalo last year. We were a better team than them last year. We're a way better team than them this year, and it's pathetic. And it's not to discredit anything the Bills did in that game, but we gave them a lot of opportunities to get back in that game. And you can't give good teams opportunities because they're just going to take it. They're going to take it. So it's frustrating. We should be coming on here talking about, yeah, we're 1-0. We got revenge versus the Bills for beating them, for them beating us in the playoffs. No. We're 0-1, and we're having the same conversations over and over and over again. And I'm so glad that the media, that everyone on Twitter, that people, that YouTubers are starting to talk about it now. Because it's more than just the late game management, the conservative management. It's why 77's even touching the football field. He was terrible on Sunday. He looked like an idiot. I don't want to be disrespectful to him and as a player or as a man or whatever, but he looked like an idiot out there. It looked like if I was out there trying to block. It really does. He's getting turned around, looking confused. I'm like, I don't understand how he sees the football field. Can Glenn Cleveland really be that much worse than Falele? I mean, genuinely. Like, can he be that much? If he's that much worse, why did we retain him?
I don't know, man. And, maybe Harbs and the coaching staff are, and this is not to defend him or whatever. Maybe they just see something that we don't see. I know it's hard to get out of the doghouse when Harbs puts certain players in it. That's what seems like is going on with Keaton Mitchell right now. He hasn't even been able to get an opportunity. And, to your point, talking about the special teams, I feel like, you were talking about this earlier, in the week. We were kind of disappointed in the way Rasheen Ali, was kind of handling some of those kick returns. I think he did have one decent one, but I feel like I feel like Keaton Mitchell is much more explosive in his running and will really and where was LeJohntay Wester? When it came to I know he's more of a punt returner, but I would have liked him to see some kickoff returns as well, or him or Keaton Mitchell. I feel like for special teams we need to switch it up. I don't feel like we need to run back what we had against the Bills because we weren't explosive. We weren't as explosive as them when it came to running kicks back. I kind of started there, and we weren't covering well as well. So
Yeah.
we need to have some changes there. It's embarrassing because Harbs, made his career, started his career being special teams. So I
Right.
would like to see a different, a different, lineup when it comes to that. You know,
And then on top of that, it feels like when we kick the ball off, punt or kick, whatever, there's always like 20 free yards for them to run.
yeah,
Like nobody's in the vicinity. Where are our gunners? But when we punt return, there's a guy in his face every single time. I don't understand like how poor this offense, this special teams is for the last few seasons. It's not just this week or this year so far. It's been since like 2022. This special teams has been terrible.
yeah,
Like, when's the last time we had a kick return touchdown? Punt return, kick return. Like, I don't I know that's not very common, but it felt like we always got, good returns, when we had at least semi decent returners back there. But like I don't understand like do we just not know how to block on freaking punt returns? Like I don't know. And then our defense looked just slow and sluggish. I'm like, just everything was a mess that game. That's outside of like the explosive offensive plays. I thought the offense was great. I thought Voorhees had a good debut, but 77, dog, he's awful.
yeah. And to your point about the special teams, I think our last special teams touchdown, like a punt return, was Tyler Wallace in that Rams game. A couple years ago. I think that was our last one. But you know, to get on the defense, and then we can get onto the stats too. I was very underwhelmed and just disappointed in our pass rush. I think we only sacked Josh Allen once, and it was one of those sacks where he was still stood up. We could barely generate any pass rush, and something that I always hate, that I always see happen to the Ravens. This even happens when we play Pat Mahomes. When a quarterback is able to break the pocket and get out of the pocket, the effort just seems to stop there. I'm seeing guys slow down when they're running to try to get the quarterback, or they're just not fast enough. And it just makes me think like we're supposed to have some of the best athletes in the world on our defense. Some of the fastest guys like Owe, even Van Noy. I know he is a lot older, but even still, there's some plays where I wish he was just a little bit faster to get to the quarterback on that play, and they just seem to kind of give up once he breaks that pocket. And we need to learn how. Maybe there needs to be a defensive scheme where there's some, free up space for a guy to come help close out or whatever. But we need to, keep having effort.
Yeah.
I think, overall, that's the reason why the Bills came back and won that game is because of effort. All of the little details, all the little plays, they had that effort and they came back and won. When Josh Allen threw that pass to the sideline to Kincaid, which was contested by Marlon Humphrey, they could have just kneeled the ball. They didn't have to do that. They could have kneeled the ball and be like, you know what, this half isn't our half. Let's go into. But no, they got down the field. They had the effort to do that, and we didn't have that effort on defense to stop any of that. So moving forward, our effort has to be better, and we got to be faster. We
Yeah.
looked slow and sluggish out there. Like for real, it seemed like they were just doing whatever they wanted to at will, and I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
You know,
It felt like
41 points for a Ravens defense is embarrassing.
right.
It really is. I never want to see that again.
It really was embarrassing because it's like we could have got. Look, I wouldn't even be comfortable if we had him in a third and 90. Like that's how bad our defense was. Like they would have got some screenplay and got 91 yards. I mean, like that they would have been like that. So it's like it could have been fourth and goal and the other's 1 yard line. I would have been worried. Like it just I don't understand how why they look so slow. Roquan looks slow. Van Noy looks slow. Away looks slow. Like it's like all these guys look so slow, and I'm like, do we not condition during training camp? Like or do we put bricks in our shoes? Like, did they get sponsored by the new brand of Under Armour shoes that freaking are made of bricks? I don't like. Am I missing something? Like, I don't understand. And I mean, Jair Alexander had a very forgettable Ravens debut. I'll tell you that. I mean, I'm not gonna get too much on him because you know he hasn't really been out there a lot. Meaning training camp wise and preseason and everything. But I don't know. Like it was very very much a forgettable debut for Alexander.
I agree, and I want to see what those stats look like, man. I think it's just time to get into those. I really want to see from a more analytical point of view what we could have, done better.
Oh wait, what? Hold on, I want to see this real quick. I'm gonna test something. Oh, we. I'm sorry. I gotta figure this out on my own time. But so the stats. Sorry. You want me to read off the offense?
Yes.
All right, so the stats. Lamar Jackson goes 14 of 19, 209 yards. He throws for two touchdowns. He sacked twice. He has a 91.4 quarterback rating or QBR, and he has a 144.4. I think that's another system of quarterback ratings. So a good, efficient day for Lamar. Derrick Henry had 18 carries for 169 yards. He averaged 9.4 yards a carry at two touchdowns. He also had that crucial fumble in the game that kind of, spun the momentum in the other direction. I mean, you could just tell by this line here, 7-6-6-22. So, that's kind of insane. Lamar Jackson went for 6 yards or 6 carries for 70 yards. He had 11.7 yards per carry. He had a touchdown. Um, Receiving on the day. That's another thing I want to talk about after we are done the stats. But Zay Flowers went seven. He had seven receptions for 143 yards. He had a touchdown on nine targets. DeAndre Hopkins only had two catches, but he had a great touchdown grab. He had 35 yards. He had a touchdown on two targets, so he was perfect on the day, 2 for 2. Derrick Henry had a catch for 13 yards. Rashad Bateman had two catches for 10 yards and for on four targets. And Mr. Revenge had one catch for 5 yards. So obviously Derrick Henry had the fumble. And I relinquished the defense to you.
Oh yeah, and also, guys, I meant to say at the beginning, if I sound a little weird, it's because I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'm trying to navigate that. But going on to the defense, I probably should have read the offense. Roquan Smith had 10 total tackles, 8 solo. Kyle Hamilton had 9 total tackles, with 6 of them being solo, and 2 pass deflections. Malachi Starks had 7 total tackles, with 3 of those being solo. Nnamdi Madubuike has 6 total tackles, with 4 of them being solo and a sack. Chidobe Awuzie had 6 total tackles, with 2 of those being solo. Nate Williams had 5 total tackles, with 5 of them being solo. Tavius Robinson had 5 total tackles, with 4 of them being solo. Marlon Humphrey had 4 total tackles, with 4 of those being solo. Teddy Buchanan, who we saw a little bit out there, he had 4 total tackles, with 3 of those being solo.
You don't gotta repass Van Noy.
Okay, Jair Alexander had 3 total tackles, with 2 of those being solo. Travis Jones, who we hope to see, a little bit more, a lot more from, towards the end of this season. He had 3 total tackles, with 2 of them being solo and a tackle for loss. And lastly, Kyle Van Noy had 3 total tackles, one of those being solo, and everyone else just sort of, filled in where they could.
Just to read off some team stats here. We had 19 first downs, so they're 29. We had 8 passing first downs, so they're 18. We had 10 rushing first downs, so they're 9. Then we had one from penalties, and they had two. We were 6 for 11 on third down, and they were 7 for 15. We didn't go for it on fourth, which we should have, but they were 1 for 1 on fourth down. They had that bullshit ass touchdown from, whatever devil magic they were using. We ran 50 total plays to their 78. We had 432 total yards to their 497. We had 11 total drives to their 12. We had 8.6 yards per play to their 6.4. 194 passing yards to their 389. We read all this already. We had 238 rushing yards to their only 108. On 29 attempts for us. They had more rushing attempts and we had more yards. We had 8.2 yards per rush to their 3.5. We were 1 for 3 in the red zone. They were 5 for 7. We had 7 penalties for 51 yards. They had 5 for 38. We had turnover. They didn't, which was a fumble. And we held the ball for 25 minutes and 11 seconds to their 34 minutes and 49 seconds. So just plenty of bad, I mean, a lot of that is in the fourth quarter, though. So I think our defense, in my opinion, was not great, but serviceable up until that fourth quarter.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there were some holes and some weaknesses here and there, but you know, they really looked okay, up until the fourth quarter. I don't know what happened in the fourth quarter. I mean, I do know what happened. They started playing soft coverages, but you know, when I said I was going to talk about this afterwards, what has beat up their secondary was why is Zay Flowers the only one who did anything? Where was Andrews? Where was Bateman? I guess Hopkins made his play when he got a chance, but where were all these guys?
And I just want to say, when DeAndre Hopkins made his play, that was on their best cornerback. That was on
Yeah,
Benford. So, it definitely, should have been more opportunities given out to Bateman and even Andrews. We could even went to Andrews on that 4th and 3. I mean, there's so many possibilities we could have done, that were unpredictable
yeah,
than to just punt the ball away,
I know.
and that will always stick with me. Why didn't we go for that 4th and 3? Even if we win the Super Bowl this year and this game won't even freaking matter, but that will always stick with me. We just are too. Why are we so respectful to other teams and they're not that way to us? I don't care if the Ravens are winning 40-0. I want the game to be 70-0 by the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
With our team, you just can never know.
Yep.
But that's a whole other thing right there.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta just
Whole other
continue
thing.
to. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like this needs to be the final test for Harbaugh. Honestly, if he doesn't win it this year, if we don't even get to the championship game, I mean, he's gotta go. I mean, like I said, like it's that we had this conversation already last year with the Raiders after the Raiders game, but he applied some band-aids and he fixed it. But there were still cracks in on the team that eventually they had to bandage that up. But it's reared its ugly head in the playoffs. So you can't. There are certain things that you can band-aid here and there, but you're going to need to eventually address it. So and honestly, it's going to have to be a permanent fix throughout this. And I don't expect it to be this week, but over the weeks, you're growing and you're growing and you're growing. Continue to be stronger in the places that you're weakest in. Like continue to grow in the places where you struggle and go on from there. And then when you get to the postseason, you're ready to fight and battle every other team like the Bills and the Chiefs and whoever you're gonna play. I'm not gonna lie. I'm confident against how many teams? I'm confident against like 13 teams in the AFC. It's just two, the Chiefs and the Bills. Can we get past them? That's the two teams that we really have to answer the question against. If we had to play the Texans in the divisional round, I feel like we'd beat them. If we had to play the Steelers or the Bengals, I feel like we'd beat them. But it's those two teams. Those two teams.
Honestly, bro, I feel like we can get past them. The Bills, the Chiefs are the only team I will still have that question for, but the Bills haven't really shown they can do anything to dominate us or beat us. It's
Right.
always us beating ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give them credit. They're not a good football team against us. I know that we're better, and I know that we can get past them, but we cannot be conservative against them. We need to be aggressive. We need to come in to win. You don't, we can't give up any type of respect or any type of softness at all to them.
Right.
Because at this point, That's 2 straight losses against them. The next time we play them, there's no respect at all. They're going to come in thinking they already are going to win.
Right.
And we need to show them that that's not the case. It's different this time. It should have been this way today. I mean, it should have been this way Sunday, but it's got to be different. And, one thing I wanted to get into was, we saw this earlier. There was a players-only dinner the Monday night after that Bills loss. And, you mentioned how there was the same thing that happened last year after we beat the Bengals. Our defense was, trash in that game. I like seeing things like that because it shows that, even, this year we all have high expectations for ourselves.
Yeah.
And, we need to start having meetings and dinners, without the coaches, just from a player's point of view, to really make sure we're all on the same page. Like, we're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. We need to win one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will say that sometimes I feel like Harbaugh needs to be in there.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's not just the players. Because we got people who are Harbaugh fans that are starting to be like, I don't know about him anymore. And when you've gotten to that point, it's true. And honestly, what you were saying earlier about the Bills is very true. We could have, let me think, because in 2019 we played them. We were running away with that game, but we almost let them come back. Again, 2022, we were running away with that game, and then we let them come back. Honestly, last year we were beating them again, but a turnover, they scored a touchdown. We didn't take over that game until we got another turnover on them, the fumble on Josh Allen. But we ran away with that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this game, that's like 3 or 4 different times that we could have run them out of their stadium or our stadium, and we didn't. Every time they beat us, it's by this much. Every time we beat them, we could have fucking kicked their ass. So it's infuriating.
Yeah, it really is. And, we just, at this point, we just got to regroup and move on. We got the Browns coming up, so we need to go 1-1 now, not 0-2 again. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, that is. That's going to be a lot of a lesson, that we're going to learn from last year to this year.
Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing. I want to say this. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I hate Chris Collinsworth. Not going to lie. He blows him better than his wife. Meaning Allen. Everything he did, it sounded like he was having an orgasm in that booth. Everything. And then had the audacity to play both sides when Lamar shoved that fan. Can't stand him.
The fate. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the first words that came out of his mouth that night were what? Talking about Allen and the MVP, saying, "Oh, he deserved that MVP." Like he made sure that I was known from his perspective. So, fuck you, Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah, not a big fan of him over here, but any last things you want to add before we close out, move on to week 2? He made sure to save his best for last, but just a tough loss. We look forward to bouncing back against the Browns. I feel like the Browns this year is a tougher week 2 matchup than what the Raiders were last year. Especially because how good the Browns defense is looking to be this year. So hopefully we can pass that test and move on the right way, like how we didn't do last year. So got to go 1-0 this week. Tough loss, but I think we'll be good moving forward as long as we learn from our mistakes. But that's all we got for you guys in this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below any thoughts you had about this Bills loss. Any things you think the Ravens should do better. Your thoughts about Harbs and all the other coaching staff's decisions. Make sure you comment those down below. Also check out our social medias, our TikTok, Instagram, our Twitter. Also check out our second channel, Casual Cinema. We're going to be seeing him soon, so we're going to have a review for that. That's what we got for you guys today. We're Birds of Prey, and we're out.
Right.